Welcome, everyone. My name is Deborah from New England Inns and Resorts Association, and thrilled today to welcome you to our session with Adam Robinson from Hireology, Hiring and Hospitality, Moving Fast Without Sacrificing Quality. Now, if any of you were at our annual conference, you recognize Adam. He joined us last year at our conference and gave us some great information and is here to do so as well today. Just a little bit of housekeeping notes. These sessions are recorded and we will be sharing it via email. We encourage you to share and to rewatch all the important information you're going to receive today from Adam. And we do ask that you please complete the evaluation. It does really help us to improve and plan for these future sessions. And for every evaluation that you've completed in the last, we had 3 sessions last week and we have 3 sessions this week within the spring educational seminar series. You'll be entered to win a $250 gift card from New England Inns and Resorts, and that drawing will be next Monday, April 18th. Adam will be presenting and we'll leave a bit of time for questions at the end. You may either use your chat tool within the Zoom toolbar or just feel free to unmute yourself and ask Adam directly. So a quick little note about Adam. Adam Robinson is the co-founder and CEO of Hireology, driving his mission to help business owners make better hiring decisions using predictive data and innovative technology. With more than 20 years of experience, Adam is a noted recruiting industry expert and speaker and is the author of The Best Team Wins, Build Your Business Through Predictive Hiring. Thank you, Adam, for being with us today.
Great to be here. Thanks so much. Let me, Deb, if you could allow screen share and I'll put my presentation up.
Absolutely. Great.
How are we looking? Okay, wonderful. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Deborah, thank you so much. As Deborah mentioned, I'm Adam Robinson, co-founder and CEO of Hireology, and in today's session, I'm going to cover an extremely timely topic for many of you in this space. I know many of you I saw at the annual conference in Cape Cod, but today we're going to be talking in a little bit more detail about how to hire faster and fill your open roles with great talent ahead of the upcoming busy season. Well, before we dive in, I do want to take a minute to cover the current hiring landscape. This is important to do first, just to set the stage for exactly why you should be focusing so intently on getting these processes right for finding and hiring the right people for your hotel right now. So first and foremost, if you look at the recent BLS jobs numbers, you will see that many Americans are getting back to work. Unemployment is down, the workforce participation rate is finally, but slowly edging up. And if you look at the economy and the job market as a whole, we're actually seeing some recovery compared to where we were just 6 months ago, the last time we were together, or even last summer. However, the hotel and hospitality industry is still an outlier in the recovery. So we're still feeling the stress of 2021 and this post-pandemic reopening and hiring crisis. We're struggling, to not only attract applicants, but also keep them interested and engaged throughout the hiring process. And it's impacting your ability to book your hotel to capacity and ultimately impacts your bottom line. Overall, the hospitality industry is still down about 1.5 million jobs from February of 2020. That's despite soaring consumer demand for travel and lodging. So we've still got a long way to go to replace what was lost. Now, we actually ran the numbers for hotel and hospitality job openings. Now, this includes housekeepers, front desk, bellhops, concierge, lodging managers, things like that, using labor market database EMSI, and found that in the last 3 months alone, some states have seen more than a 100% increase in these types of job openings. The competition for this type of work, as you know all too well, is massive. And that's just among other competing hotels. When you add in the Amazons and the gig work and all the options that people have right now, and the competition for their talent, it paints a really clear picture of just how challenging this current labor market is. Now, here's the same data in map form. And I think worth noting that many of the states that are the deepest blue here are the states that tend to attract the most tourists and travelers in the summer months, the Northeast and Midwest states. And as we approach better weather finally, I think summer vacations, decline in COVID cases, all of the things, I think hotels in these areas are going to just have to staff up very, very quickly ahead of the busy season. My guess is these numbers are just going to get higher the closer that we get to summer. So what's causing this massive demand for workers and the widespread struggles when it comes to filling these roles? Well, there are a couple of forces at work here. One new reason is the new and evolving expectations for what it means to even be working. I mean, during the pandemic, people have had time to reevaluate their priorities in work and in life. You know, many of you have done the same thing. And it turns out that people don't want to be tied by and large to their employer for 9, 10, 12 hours a day without any kind of flexibility. They want to have work-life balance. That's, you know, the word that we've heard so often, and flexibility to do things like pick their kids up from school or take care of aging parents. And combine that with the rise of gig economy work. So think Uber, Instacart, other forms of self-employment like freelance work, freelance bartending, contract-based housekeeping. I mean, people can make their own hours. They can run their own businesses by and large for themselves and be completely in control of their lives and how much earning potential they want to have. And so this way of life is attractive to people right now, and it's possible. It's entirely possible for someone in this economy to engineer an earnings target based on gig economy work. So people aren't going to as willingly join a business payroll for lower or same pay and less flexibility than they can get just figuring out how to make this work for themselves. And it's putting a lot of pressure on this industry. And so there needs to be greater effort on behalf of employers to compete with this flexibility. Another factor that's really contributing to the shortage in talent that you're feeling is just a nationwide lack of childcare. This is emerging as a real issue that's sticking around post-pandemic. The pandemic really impacted working parents, especially working mothers, who simply found it more financially beneficial just to stay home with the kids rather than try to work and pay childcare. And so this has been exacerbated by COVID-related school closures. And so many working parents just had no other choice. But even as schools and daycares reopen, I think it's proving to be difficult for working parents to get back to work for many of the reasons I listed earlier. Just a lack of flexibility, rigid scheduling, and the cost of childcare and perhaps government benefits just outweighing on balance the pay increases that we've had to put out there. And so to make matters worse, while hotels and hospitality businesses are feeling the brunt of the talent shortage, businesses across all industries are looking to hire right now, especially those that were the hardest hit at the onset of COVID, like retail. So you're competing with all kinds of businesses that are looking for the exact same type of talent that you are. In fact, a recent Hireology study found that nearly half of active job seekers last year applied to more than 10 jobs at the same time in their search. So said differently, what that means is you're competing with 10 other companies every time that person is sitting in front of you interviewing for that open role. So what are you doing? What are you doing to make sure your opportunity, your business, your culture, your process stands out from those 10 other companies? So not only are today's job seekers applying to 10 or more jobs, they're also getting hired really quickly once they begin to throw their name in the ring. 43% of our survey respondents, these applicants that we talked to, were hired within 2 weeks of beginning their job search. Now that's 2 weeks from the initial job application to when they received an offer. So again, if you have a good candidate, you really need to position yourself to be able to move quickly. Otherwise, you're just going to miss out on these top job seekers. And finally, even if you do attract the right candidates and get them interested in your roles, they don't stick around for long if your hiring process is clunky, slow, and inconvenient. So we surveyed our customer base and found that 84% of businesses have had a candidate ghost during the hiring process. I know many of you have had that experience, maybe more often than you like, over the last 6 months. And as a hospitality or hotel business, I guarantee you've had this happen to you. Candidates are really, really tough to keep interested given all that they have available to them as in terms of working options if we're not getting back to them quickly and running a really tight hiring process. So what can you do about it all? Well, I know I've painted a somewhat challenged picture up until now, but none of this means that it will be impossible to get to the staffing levels you all want to get to. It just means you have to get more strategic and intentional with your recruiting and hiring efforts. But Hireology, this is what we specialize in. So we've seen what works and what doesn't work in today's tough market. So what I want to do is give you everything that I can about attracting and hiring great talent, even when this market seems impossible to conquer. So I've broken down the rest of today's presentation into 3 key areas of focus and advice. And so my hope for the rest of the time that we have is you pull 1 or 2 of these nuggets out of the presentation that you can take back into the business to ask some of these tough questions and start to think about doing things differently. And then of course, we'll have time for questions at the end. So let's dig in. My first piece of advice and guidance here is to think about your open jobs like products. And so jobs are products, and just like products, they need to be retailed like products. They need to be presented, they need to be configured and sold, and they need to be done, that needs to be done digitally. So what do I mean by this? Let's dig in a bit more. Let's take a look at what a product is. I mean, really, it's any item or service built to meet a specific want or need. And then it's retailed and marketed as the solution to that want or need. And the best products are differentiated from competitors in some way that's recognizable and understandable really quickly. And they're marketed effectively with the right message on the right channel. So let's take a hotel room, for example. I mean, obviously the need being met is a place to stay, most basic level. And all hotels offer some sort of differentiation. I mean, maybe the cost is higher, maybe the service levels are higher or lower. You're configuring a product for the market that you're serving, right? Maybe paying more, but getting better amenities and services, or maybe your selling point is that you're more affordable in an area that's really expensive. Whatever it is, you find a way to stand out in your market and you meet the need for the target you're trying to sell to. And you market yourself to the right audience and you do it on the right channels with that message. This is a day in the life. You know this really, really well. So let's compare that mindset of retailing rooms to retailing jobs. The need being met for the target audience, of course, is a steady income. Perhaps it's health benefits, and maybe even just flexibility and fulfillment in life, the ability to live the life that you want to live with some sort of sense of accomplishment, achievement, or meaning. But to get people to pick your product or job over others, you really have to differentiate yourself as an employer. Maybe you offer competitive pay. Maybe you offer better benefits. Maybe there's a really outstanding career path in your hotel group. Maybe you're selling flexibility, which is really the currency of the day today. Maybe it's a lower stress work environment. Whatever it is, you then have to reach the right audience on the right channels, which in the case of retailing jobs might include job boards, social media, a referral platform, your own career site that's search engine optimized. It's all of those things. So hopefully that ties the retailing of your property and your amenities to the retailing of a position. That really is the mindset that you have to get in. It's not just posting job descriptions anymore. So let's dig into this a little bit more and determine how you might go about building and marketing your product or your job so that you can reach the right job seekers with the right message and build your candidate pipeline. First, you want to define your product and determine how you'll differentiate. So let's start with the most basic needs. So think of this as a bit of a workshop on how to create job description with a product mindset. So people at their most basic level when it comes to employment need to get paid, of course, and the pay needs to be in line with the work that they're doing and the value that they assign their own time, as well to the experience they have. And it needs to be consistent with broader market standards. So that's really the baseline here. Define the work, offering a pay and benefit and flexible package that's consistent with that work, right? So obviously general manager product is going to be very, very different from that housekeeping or front desk product. But we want to start talking about and consider what your employees are getting out of the work personally, right? What is the fulfilling aspect that makes this job more than just a paycheck? Is it something that they'll take pride in or feel a sense of accomplishment? Let's look at some differentiating factors on top of these basic needs. So like with a hotel room, the basic need is a place to stay. Do you want to differentiate by being bare bones, basic and lower rates? Or do you want to differentiate by offering more amenities and better service at higher rates? When it comes to the job you're looking to fill, maybe the differentiating factor is increased flexibility. And if you were to pick one area where I think it's the easiest to differentiate, it's certainly the lowest cost to do it, right? Anyone can just offer more money. Everyone's doing that right now. It's really a commoditized approach to it. I mean, in hospitality, though, remote work really isn't typically an option. I mean, you can't check people into a room over Zoom, but maybe you offer scheduling flexibility. Maybe you offer increased paid time off, where you allow for people to have that work-life balance that they want. And remember, you're not always competing with another hotel or even another employer. Sometimes you're competing with unemployment or gig economy work, or with just a decision as to whether or not it's easier to just stay home and not get that job. So think about that target audience. Think about, and it's going to be different for every job. Think about how you can compete with that. Again, maybe that's better benefits. Maybe it's learning and development. Maybe it's career pathing and long-term growth. Maybe it's the culture. Maybe it's a family-run property and it's being a part of that. These are all things you can't get just taking gig economy work or working for people with less intentionality about differentiation. It's really incumbent on you to build this product and to market it effectively based on basic needs, but also those things that help you stand out. So now that you have your product built and defined, you then need to figure out how you want to package it. So when it comes to packaging jobs, the very first thing you want to do is make sure that job description, which is really to be thought of as a marketing document, is done the right way. So you might think a job description is nothing more than a list of the responsibilities and requirements of the job. I understand there are absolutely legal requirements when it comes to job descriptions, but your descriptions are really much more than that. I mean, think of them, not unlike a Super Bowl ad, right? You want to catch the attention of the right audience and get them to take action, right? What's going to grab their attention right away? If it's just a list of responsibilities in bullet point form, it's really easy to just move on to the next thing, right? As a candidate, you often only have one shot to make that impression, because the second a job seeker is turned off by a description, or they're just, they don't think that product's for them, they're going to move on to those 10 other opportunities that they have. And so great job descriptions are written with a strategy in mind. So start with a really quick summary, no more than 1 to 2 sentences of what the job is, without getting too deep into the responsibilities. And then what I would suggest is you immediately after the summary, dig into what makes you special. Dig into the benefits, the tangible benefits, but also the intangible benefits. This is where you're going to list those differentiating factors. You're going to talk about those things like flexibility. You're going to talk about the culture, the growth opportunities, all of the things that you think you're building that stand out. Then you can dig deeper into the role and the responsibilities and qualifications for that job. So remember, when listing qualifications, that you want to give alternatives also, so you don't turn away good candidates who don't meet those exact criteria. So for example, if they don't have specific experience, maybe they've never worked in the space before, they've got equivalent customer-facing experience at a retailer or a restaurant or some other service-based business, make sure that they understand that in this market, hotel industry experience, if these roles don't require it, is not necessary. Perhaps they're looking to get into the business. Maybe we're talking about why it's so great to be in this business. And remember not to oversell, right? Don't claim to be the best or the only, because people see through that type of language. And I think more importantly, for search engine optimization, right? Because over 70% of job search starts with a Google search today. For search engine optimization and just ease of consuming the information, you want to break up the text into digestible sections with subheadings. It's going to make it more marketable and readable, but Google likes that a lot more. And you're going to find that your job is coming up in more searches, which is going to lead to a better funnel. So here's an example of a pretty well-structured job description. You'll see that on the right-hand side is the top of the description. It starts with the simple summary and dives right into the benefits, right? So, very, very straightforward. Are you ready to embark on an exciting hotel career at the Castle of Nashville Radisson? from hotel management jobs to frontline interaction with hotel guests and important behind the scenes hospitality jobs, our growing team offers a variety of opportunities for growth and exciting careers in the hospitality industry. It's simple, it's straightforward, and I think most importantly, you're not just jumping right into the description, but then you're moving into the benefits, and then you're talking about responsibilities and qualifications. That's the order in which I would recommend you start to move through these kinds of content writing exercises. Have someone in the marketing team take a look at it, right? You want this developed by someone who understands how to write copy with a marketing mindset. The next opportunity you have to package your jobs is with your career site. Now, this is where you can give a broader and more general feel about your business. And so you want to lead with what makes you unique and formulate a story arc that resonates with your audience. So like with job descriptions, you want to list benefits and perks early on and above the fold, right? So they're not scrolling. You don't want to lose people, particularly because more likely than not, they're reading this on their mobile device. So this is your chance to feature testimonials from existing employees. Nothing sells opportunity like happy people in that job telling about why they like working there. So again, you want to think of it like your property. You might share guest experiences on your website or on your social channels. You might show videos of people talking about their stay. You need to do the same thing for these open positions. And be sure to include any workplace awards that you may have received, as well as a DE&I statement to ensure that you're maximizing your reach to the most diverse audience possible, and just helping people feel comfortable that you're an employer that they could feel good about working for. And so here's a sample career site from Marriott. You'll see all of the things that I hit. You see a company story arc, you see a testimonial, and you see benefits. All of these things work together in tandem to give that candidate the impression that this organization, this particular hotel, really stands out from the dozens of others that they may have been evaluating as a place to send in an application. And finally, when it comes to building and retailing jobs like products, you have to get the word out on the right channels. So when it comes to jobs, there are several channels that you want to prioritize. First and foremost is employee referrals. Now, among Hireology customers, referrals today represent about 1 out of every 8 new hires, somewhere around 16%. And that's because referrals are typically more qualified for your roles and more interested in them right from the jump. And in the hospitality and hotel space, this is especially true, especially for roles like serving, bartending. Job seekers almost exclusively today rely on word of mouth for these new positions. Everyone's always looking for the better place, and they find out about these better places from peers in their network. So how do you create a referral program that actually yields these kinds of results? So step one is to make sure your internal teams are even aware of the program, right? You have to market it much like you would your hotel, through email, ideally through SMS or text, through physical signage campaigns in the employee spaces, in the property, in the break rooms, in the back of the house, and the open roles you're looking for. It needs to be really easy for people to make these referrals and know what they'll get paid if they help make that referral. So on the right, you're going to see some examples. The Avengers, we love the Marvel Universe here at Hireology. The Avengers sign here includes, I think, really critically, a QR code for easy mobile referral submission. It's easy for someone to just hold up the phone and scan it and go straight to a chatbot. And the email example is short and it's sweet and includes all the details that people need to know. I think it's also important to set the right level of bonus. This is a bit of a balancing act, right? You want to pay enough to motivate people to do it, but you don't want to go overboard, especially in our space for seasonal roles in particular. We typically recommend around $100 to $500 for high volume seasonal roles. It's enough to get people interested or excited, but it isn't going to break the bank for you, particularly in higher turnover roles. And finally, we've seen customers going so far as to gamify their programs to tap into people's competitive side. So create leaderboards internally to spark that competition, or offer higher bonus payouts for top referrers. At the weekly or daily team huddles, you can highlight people who have the most referrals. You can give out spot bonuses. You can make it really, really fun And because you could be getting as much as 30 or 40% if you're doing this with real intention of your hires through referral platform. I think for everyone listening today, there is no better return on your time and money than supercharging your employee referral platform. Next is social media. Now, of course, having a social media profile and posting your open roles there is table stakes today. I think the key is getting a lot more creative with it. So use social media as a way to promote your employer branding. So for every job opening you post, you might want to share a testimonial from a happy employee or a recruitment marketing video about what it's like to work for you, or even something as simple as graphics listing off everything you have to offer, from pay to benefits to career growth opportunities. Now, some companies are also getting even more creative on newer forms of social media like TikTok. If that makes you nervous, find the person in your property that likes posting to TikTok. Chipotle launched a campaign inviting applicants to get creative by submitting short form video resumes through TikTok. Very cool stuff. Social media presents endless opportunities, and it's important to think outside the box with it, and maybe even tap your marketing team to help you with this also. I think, just from personal experience, these kinds of short form videos give you an opportunity to see the personality of the individual at work in the form of these short form videos. So you get a lot out of this investment. Also makes it fun, and it certainly makes it different. Now, another area of investment when it comes to applicant sourcing is organic search. Now, recruiting studies estimate that about 70%, as I said, of all job seekers start their search today on Google, on a phone. So it's really important to show up in these searches, right? If your job is not showing up in the search in the first 10 or 15, that's an issue. What that means is you're invisible. So one homework assignment I can give everybody here is to search for the kinds of roles you're looking to hire on your phone after this webinar and just see if your own jobs come up. If they don't, that means just like hotel listings and marketing, if you're page 2, page 3, page 4, you're probably invisible, right? Plus, Google has capitalized on this whole dynamic by creating its own job board called Google for Jobs, which essentially just relies on its own algorithm to find jobs that fit certain criteria. So you can see some examples of this on the right. This is actually Google's product you're looking at. So how can you boost your search ranking? Well, by following typical SEO best practices with your job descriptions. That's really it. So first you want to so here's some tangible things you can do. Things Google likes to see is the other way I could state this. Keep, first and foremost, your job titles between 2 to 4 words. Using, you can say 1 to 3 job descriptions with 1 word are pretty tough. Using titles like front desk coordinator, competitive pay may seem like it attracts people, using all caps and exclamation points, but really Google sees this as spammy, and they will rank this content lower. Google is all about the content quality. If you're writing in all caps, using emojis or lots of punctuation, Google doesn't like that. So you want to use bullet points and subheaders to break up the text. Google really favors readability on mobile. So you want to keep that word count between about 300 and 800 words, which is the ideal range we have found for Google's algorithm. And finally, you want to use the right keywords. So put yourself in the mind of your target job seeker, and really try to understand what they'd be searching for when looking for a job. Make sure these keywords are in your job descriptions and especially included in the subheaders of the page. That's going to help you index with a higher ranking. It's also just going to make the experience for that job seeker that much better. And last but not least is job boards. These are also table stakes, and I know nearly everyone here is spending more money than they would like on job boards. But, this is the equivalent of paying for room night leads through third parties. You don't love to do it. You wish everybody came to the property through your website. They're the best leads, they're the lowest cost, they're the highest quality. But of course, this is super crowded, so you can't just rely on job boards, but you do have to have a presence here, right? So some tips for maximizing ROI on these increasingly competitive sites. Number one, all the job description and SEO best practices that I just gave you, all of those apply when you're posting this position and paying for it. Again, don't write in all caps, don't use excess exclamation points, do not list the salary or pay in the title. You also want to post unique or non-duplicate jobs, right? So if Google sees lots of the same kind of job posted over and over again, or some of these paid sites, you just continually post, those tend to be problematic, right? And you want to really specify the location. It makes it easier. I mean, you've all had the experience of spending $500 to sponsor a post and you're getting job applicants from 3 states over. That's a function of the zip code based algorithms and location service based algorithms that lots of these sites use. So here are some quick tips to make sure you're doing it right. Okay, so you've retailed your jobs like products and you've attracted some candidates. Now what? You need to make sure that those candidates stay engaged and interested in your role and that they don't move on to competitors. So let's bring in another analogy. If your jobs are like marketing rooms, then your hiring process needs to be like your guest experience. We're spending lots of money to get candidates into the funnel. What happens once they're there? So to start, we need to ask what exactly goes into a great guest experience. Now that's different for everyone here on this call, but a few things. Number one, first and foremost, as you know, it needs to be as easy as possible for guests to book their stay online and self-service. No one wants to call hotels anymore. They want to do it on their own. They don't want to speak to anybody. Two, increasingly, it's becoming more and more important for them to be able to do so on a mobile device. People are on the go and they rely heavily on their phones for day-to-day tasks. Third, a great guest experience involves the right amount of communication from you. So from the moment they book the room to the day they check out, they need to know when to arrive, how to check in, where to park, what the amenities are, how to get in touch with the concierge, how to make requests, all of those things so well. And then finally, when guests arrive, you have their information on file and you greet them with a warm welcome and they feel expected. So let's take a look at how you can apply these concepts to the candidate experience. First is making the process really easy and efficient. So applying for your open roles and scheduling interviews should be just as easy as booking that room. It should only require a few simple steps. You fill out your contact information, you upload a resume or application, that's it. It should not take more than a few minutes to complete, shouldn't have more than 5 or 6 fields to fill out. You don't want people retyping their resume or work experience with their thumbs. You don't want them requiring through multiple pages on your site. You don't want them having to log in to create a job seeker profile. All of these things really impact your conversion rates. So if you do require a resume, again, don't make people complete fields with the same information that's on their resume, or make the resume optional, which is what I'd recommend. The easier and faster this process is, the better. The more leads you'll get, the higher engagement from applicants and the higher your conversion. Again, I'll say this, it's super important. Do not require the creation of an account or a login for people to apply to roles at your property. This becomes a huge barrier to applying. I mean, people just don't want to take the time to create accounts. And even if they do, they'll likely forget their password later and just give up. I'm sure we can all agree there are few things more frustrating online than trying to get something done and having to reset your password in order to do it or to create a login. And so if you've got a system that requires applicants to create a profile before they can apply to jobs, just know that you're probably crippling your candidate pool by about 60% with that login gating mechanism on the front end. It really is substantial. So let's visualize how these experiences compare. Here's an example of a great guest booking experience with a Hyatt property, only a few fields to fill out. It's simple, it's user-friendly, it's easy to navigate, it's very, very quick. Here's an example of a typical hiring process for a hotel. You have to navigate to a careers page. Note how not easy this is. You have to find the job. Then you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom to determine how to apply. Then it asks for the candidate to submit their resume via email. Now, this is so much more difficult and time consuming than it is to fill out forms. much like you would when just booking a room, a couple of fields, submit and go. And it's likely causing people for this particular group to drop out or give up altogether. I mean, people just don't want to have to run this gauntlet. Here's an example of a different candidate experience, the one I would encourage you to try and emulate. You scroll through the open roles to find the one you want. You click Apply Now at the top of the page, and then you have a really short form to complete. There's no emails, there's no attachments required. It's quick and easy, just like booking that room. Similarly, scheduling an interview should be just as easy as booking a room too. You shouldn't have to go back and forth playing phone tag or worse, sending emails back and forth. It should also be something that can happen online via self-service. So you can see the image on the far right. This is an example of Hireology's scheduling platform that automates this process, giving candidates available times synced to managers' calendars. Just makes it super simple for them to just pick a time from their phone, and it eliminates the cumbersome back and forth that so often turns candidates away or prolongs the hiring process. And as I said earlier, time spent in the hiring process can be a death sentence for getting that hire made when people are looking at 10 open roles and they're getting hired within 2 weeks from the initial application. So next, just like your guest experience, your candidate experience has to be mobile friendly. Really mobile first is how I would say it. That means you need to require no more than 5 fields, and the application itself is mobile responsive, meaning you're not having to get out your thumbs and scroll all over the place to try and read the page on your phone, right? It means large fields that are easy to see and complete on small screens. It means limited scrolling and limited top-down menus. Additionally, use text messaging to do things like scheduling. If you're doing any kind of skills testing, if you're running reference checks, texting is so much easier for candidates to do on the go rather than navigating through email. Plus, everyone hates email. If you saw me at the end of last year, you heard me say, my challenge to this entire association is to stop emailing job applicants at all, period, within the next 12 months. Inboxes are cluttered, they're overloaded. You hate email. Candidates hate email. No one wants to get emails anymore. Simply put, avoiding anything that's going to frustrate someone on their phone. It just needs to go. So put yourself in that job seeker's shoes. So homework assignment. I want you to get out your phone when we're done here today and try to apply to your open jobs on your phone. Go to your company's career site and just note how easy or difficult it is for you to apply to a job at your own property, right? It could be a fantastic experience, in which case, congratulations. It could be a little more challenging. Again, put yourself in the mindset of that applicant or job seeker and ask the question, is this something that was enjoyable? So here's a side-by-side comparison of, I think, a great mobile-friendly guest experience and a great mobile-friendly candidate experience. You'll see the fields are large and they're really easy to fill out on small screens. There aren't a lot of fields, and you don't have to scroll at all to get to all of them. It's easy and it's simple. So on the right-hand side, you'll also see an example of how you can use text messaging to do things like schedule interviews, which will shave days off of your process and increase the likelihood that you're keeping your candidates engaged throughout the process. All right, next up, it's important to maintain regular communication with candidates as they're going through the process, much like you already do with your guests most likely. So for example, once a candidate submits an application, we want to be sure to respond personally within 24 hours, or at least program automatic responses so that they know their application has been received. The more immediate, the better. So texting can also be used as a way to continuously sell your open roles as candidates are being contacted by your competitors. So for example, after a candidate completes an interview, send them a text message that says, hey, it was great meeting with you today. I want to share the 3 reasons why our employees love working here. We look forward to continuing the conversation. It's simple, it's straightforward, it shows intent. Similarly, make sure to confirm when they schedule interviews or when steps like skills tests or reference checks are complete. This is no different, again, than confirmation emails you sent to guests, right? In general, so the candidate should always know what the next step is. They always want to know whether the next step is on them or on you and where they are in the process. So let's look at a real example of this. On the left, you'll see a confirmation email for a hotel booking. In this email, the recipient knows exactly when the room's been booked and the times for check-in and check-out. We know all of this. It also includes really easy access to additional information like the property overview or how to modify the reservation. This property might then send reminders as the date of the stay approaches with more details on where to park and how to check in, getting that guest really excited and up to speed on their experience. Why should your candidate experience be any different than this? So on the right, you'll see a similar example from the hiring world where the recruiter has sent interview location details to give the candidate more information on where to go and whom to ask for when they come on site for that interview. And finally, the hospitality space is quite literally known for being warm, welcoming, and prepared for their guests. And so you know how to make the experience relaxing and stress-free. It's important to adopt that same mindset with your candidates. Your recruiters and your hiring managers need to always be friendly and kind. Really adopt that kindness mandate. This is the best way to make a great first impression so that candidates stay eager and engaged throughout the process and don't jump to those other opportunities midstream. And when candidates do show up for interviews, your team needs to be ready. That means they're informed on the candidate's background and they don't make the candidate start over from scratch and explaining who they are or what experience they have. Further, you should be prepared with the questions you want to ask so the interview goes smoothly and doesn't feel rocky and unorganized. The research shows that we actually make a worse decision when we show up to an interview unprepared and ask random questions than we do if we just randomly picked somebody out of a stack and hired them. I mean, there's literally a worse result running an ad hoc interview than running no interview at all. And finally, the transition from candidate to new hire also needs to be smooth. So think about how easy it is for guests to go from booking to checking in to accessing their room. The same needs to happen with your new hire. So once they sign that offer, the process of gathering their new hire information and onboarding and training them really needs to be smooth. So hiring and onboarding needs to feel like one cohesive process rather than several disjointed processes with abrupt start and end points and different points of contact and different methods of communication. And the third big idea and area of focus I want to dig into now is balancing speed and quality. So you've attracted more candidates and you've created a great experience for them, but how do you go about getting the right people on board fast without making poor hiring decisions? Now, of course, in a tough hiring market, you want to move quickly, but as someone who's built a business, I can certainly tell you the impact of poor hire fit. Career Builder, another job board in the space, estimated in terms of hard numbers that in this industry, a bad hire can cost around $15,000 in the time, resources, and lost opportunity cost. And of course, that impact could be more than that. Poor hire, in the hospitality space can have a direct impact on your guest experience, which then leads to poor reviews, which then lead to lost revenue opportunities down the line. So, think about this concept of your hotel brand experience and your hotel employment experience and brand being the same brand, right? Because if it's off, it can really cause tension with your existing team members who, as we noted earlier, have plenty of options for work, and they just don't have to stick around and continue to work for you. They can always go somewhere else. But it's clear the cost of a poor hire is massive. So while we want to move really quickly, that's important, we also want to find a way to do so without sacrificing quality. So here, again, prioritizing referrals. Not only referrals help with speed because these candidates are essentially already vetted by your best employees, right? So you save time that you'd spend combing through resumes and debating internally on whether to bring the person in or not. In fact, we took a look at all of our customers using our referral platform and found that referral candidates are actually on average hired 3 days faster than non-referral candidates. That's a really big deal. And when it comes to quality, referral candidates are typically more aligned with your company. They're more aligned with the role and they're more aligned with your values. And again, that's because your existing employees have already vetted these people. And typically they refer their peers who are similar to them in terms of work ethic and values. So with referrals, you're moving forward with someone who's more qualified right off the bat. And additionally, since these people heard about your open role through a trusted friend, they're also typically more interested in your role right off the bat. So really, referrals are a win-win in terms of both speed and quality. Now, of course, getting the most out of your referral program requires a lot of effort on your end, right? It has to be managed intentionally. You do the work to get the word out. Like I mentioned earlier, using tactics like physical signage in employee break areas, in locker rooms, or with QR codes for easy submission, or even investing in tools and technology like ours that help you send internal text and email campaigns to your existing employee base to help spread the word. The next area of focus when it comes to balancing speed and quality is candidate texting. In terms of speed, texting has allowed Hireology customers to shave 8 days off the hiring process. So at a time when people are getting hired in 2 weeks, the ability to cut a week off your hiring process is just the most important thing you can possibly do. It's why I'm so big on moving away from email and toward text and recruiting. Texting speeds up the process because it saves the time candidates would otherwise need to spend navigating inboxes or finding time to set up a call or even checking email. I mean, think about your email inbox right now. Again, it's cluttered. It's got marketing messages you don't want. And if someone who is working on the go, it's tough to find time to just search through and catch up on it. But with text, whether you like it or not, you read the text message, right? The message, it comes right to the candidate, and it's so easy for them to just click a link and apply. So in terms of quality, again, those top candidates are looking at a lot of employers. So you need to be the one to stand out and get to them before the others do. And so while your competitor's offer for an interview is sitting in that email inbox, along with 200 other marketing emails, your message is going straight to their phone. And that's how you win. And so here's a quick look at how something like this would work. So I know many of you might not have used texting in the recruiting process before, so it might be a little bit tough to visualize. But with tools like this, you can do this right from your desktop. You don't literally need to be texting them from your phone. In fact, we recommend you use a platform so that you're not using your personal phone number. It's so simple, and it's really an easy way to break through the clutter for these top candidates. Next, look at your hiring process. So if you're still winging it when applications come in, or you have different team members who use different processes, you're likely moving a lot more slowly and with a lot lower quality communicated to that applicant than you could. And chances are you're just not getting to the people fast enough or hiring the right people. So a great process speeds up your hiring effort by making sure everyone on your team knows what to do and when to do it. And when you define the process and you train it with your hiring managers, you can even build in mandated response time. So for example, you might say to your managers, all applications must be reviewed within 24 hours. Or after any interview, you must respond within 24 hours with next steps. Clear and repeatable steps with timelines that are trained and enforced, right? And there's accountability here with your team to move faster and work more efficiently. And then in terms of quality, a well-defined process will ensure that no verification steps are missed. This is often the biggest contributing factor to bad hires. You have teams skipping interviews or conducting poor interviews, or maybe you choose not to call references or forget to order that drug screen. You need to have standard steps in place that allow you to identify the best of the best. So as an added bonus, candidates can sense when you have a smooth process on your end. So from the candidate's perspective, this tells them that you value their time and their experience, which in their mind directly translates to how you'll be valuing their time as an employer. So here's an example of a well-defined hiring process. Of course, this is oversimplified, I think, for the point of this deck, but the idea here is to clearly define what happens when and how long each phase should last in order to keep that process as tight as possible and to get those top candidates in as soon as you can. And finally, the tools you use in the hiring process are really going to make a big difference when it comes to both speed and quality. The key is looking for all-in-one tools that allow you to do everything from post open roles across job boards, run your referral program, keep track of candidates, score interviews, order drug screens, send offers, and more, all from one place. You'll save significant time and resources by not having to jump from system to system to complete these steps and re-enter all of this information. So everything you need to do can be done from one central platform using the same data. And then in terms of quality, again, this is going to result in an all-around better experience for the candidate. Candidates can absolutely sense if you're relying on outdated tools and techniques when it comes to hiring, and it signals to them that you're behind the times as an employer. So let me dive into a quick visual to explain further. When you're operating with disparate systems, it's really tough to execute steps like candidate communication to scheduling interviews to onboarding well. And in turn, you just can't connect with the modern job seeker, move them through the process, and get them hired. You end up conducting the whole process in silos. manually re-entering data from system to system. It slows you down. It makes everything feel clunky for that candidate. It's error prone, and it just creates more time for your team, which is something I know you don't have a lot of right now. So when all of your tools come together under one platform, when you're putting that person, that human at the center of thinking through this process, you can move fast, you can save time, reduce errors, and really put people experience first. Candidates who come in through job boards or referrals or even your career site are all funneled into one single system that tracks applicants. You can communicate with all of those candidates and track their progress within the same system, regardless of where they came from. You can then order those drug screens or reference checks from that same system. It helps you move fast, ensure that you're not only moving forward with the very best in the bunch, but you're also keeping those top candidates engaged, moving quickly, and not looking elsewhere. So to summarize, I shouldn't have to beat you over the head with this group because I know you understand, but hiring in hospitality and hotels is really hard right now. There are lots of factors contributing to a decline in available workers who want to take this type of work. So you have to do a better job standing out by retailing your jobs, much like products, and moving the best candidates through a smooth and efficient hiring process that effectively balances speed and quality. And with that, Deborah, I will turn it over to the group with any questions that you may have. I'm happy to take any questions or hear any thoughts or comments from the group.
Thank you, Adam, and for all of that great support. And I love the fact that you really relate retailing our jobs with how we sell hotel rooms. It's a perfect advice. So with that, we have an expert on the line here today. If you'd like to either unmute yourself and ask the question directly to Adam, or you may use the chat box, and I'm happy to moderate those questions for you, Adam. It's hard to read and answer at the same time. Feel free to do that now. All right, first one came in from Rick Reno. You said 43% of applicants get an offer within 2 weeks. Is that number lower for frontline employees? Question mark.
It can be, yeah. So I mean, we're seeing on the spot hires being made right now. So interesting. I'm staying in a property right now on the West Coast. Sitting on the front desk is we're hiring, on the spot offers made today. Talk to a manager now. I mean, that's what's happening. You're walking on site and it's just in your face, right? And I think what's interesting is guests know that staffing shortages are leading to reductions in service quality. When you have to request at this particular property, room service 1 day in advance, the room cleanup or housekeeping a day in advance. They need to put it on a schedule. They're literally I asked the general manager why I think I understand why you're doing that staffing shortage, but how does that work practically? It's because we want to know how many rooms we have tomorrow, so we know when we call the staffing agency to send housekeeping, we know how many we need tomorrow. I mean, that's how acute it is out here, and we all know how expensive contract housekeeping is and what that does to your bottom line, but that's what's going on. So yeah, I mean, I would say 8 days is the average. But this is the world we live in right now. Don't be shy about marketing open roles in guest areas, front of the house. Guests appreciate that you're trying. Everyone really does understand that this is hard right now. Faster is absolutely better. I mean, you can go from 0 days, certainly if you're doing it that way, to the average of 8. If you're bleeding toward 2 weeks, that's slow, right? That's slow. It was fast 2 years ago. It's pretty slow now.
Great, thanks. Next question. What about video interviews? How effective are they compared to in-person interviews?
I would say it this way. Live video interviews are really effective and everyone is comfortable, right? If you haven't got comfortable on Zoom yet, this new world maybe isn't for you. I don't know. We're all comfortable. We've done, 5 million of these in the last couple of years. Asynchronous video interviewing in this industry That's when the candidate records an interview to some canned questions. I just don't like them. I personally do not see a great effect. Nobody wants to do it. And then it really just punts the work down the road, because who's going to watch 15, 20-minute pre-recorded interviews? I mean, there are systems that do transcription and all those things. It just creates more work. So I would suggest, of course, you go faster with video interviewing, do it live. Asynchronous is not ideal, and it makes people kind of nervous because they feel like they're performing. It's just not a great experience, and chances are you're probably not watching them anyway. So that would be my advice. Hold off on asynchronous recorded interviews, and I would focus on live if it helps you go faster.
Great, thanks, Adam. All right, we have time for more questions. Anyone have a question they want to ask Adam?
But to directly answer Karen's question, video interviews are every bit as effective as in-person interviews, right? I would not be shy about moving to video for any role, It makes it easier for people. It demonstrates flexibility. And if you have the process nailed down, it's helpful. I think Karen had another question. How do you feel about posting pay on job postings? If you don't post pay on job postings, Google will rank in a way that Google understands. Same with Indeed. They rank your listing lower, right? Don't put it in the description. You absolutely, when it says list pay, you want to list pay, and it should be what you're willing to pay, right? You can show a range, but job postings that don't include pay details perform far worse than those that do.
I have a question. So does the pay affect the ranking for Google?
Yes, it does. In fact, in the way we've built our technology to be indexed by Google, there are fields you have to program so that they understand the content that you're feeding them, that this particular thing, there's a couple of things actually. The zip code, right? The actual physical location of the work, because Google is going to check distance to home and prioritize by closer rather than farther. So you need to be really clear and specific about where this is, and the pay. Those are huge. And then beyond that, it's content length and quality, right? So if it's giant block text, and Google has a readability algorithm on content. And so if it's hard to read, Google knows it's hard to read just by the nature of the formatting. If it's easy to read, Google knows it, right? So if the content is of sufficient quality, if it's readable, if you're listing pay in a way that Google's algorithm understands, which means you have to send it to them in a specific way, and your job description meets the criteria, not all caps, all those things, 3 words, then you're doing pretty well.
Great, thanks, Adam.
Sure.
All right, who has the next question? And feel free to just unmute yourself too and speak directly to Adam. I think you did a very thorough job of explaining everything, Adam. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it was a lot of content. I know attendees will have access to this information, and we recorded it. So I just, once again, thank you for having me speak to the group. Absolutely love this organization. It's always so much fun. And, if anybody wants to know more, of course, Deborah can share with you how to get in touch with me or our company. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, Adam, thank you for being a resource for us during a really difficult labor time and in the past as well. And lots of thank yous coming through. Rick is asking when the recording will be available. It's as soon as Zoom buttons it up for me and I get it via email, we will send it to you this afternoon, Rick. So thank you, Adam, for joining us today. And thank you for all of the attendees for joining us. And take care, everyone. Good luck with all those hirings.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.